Hello and welcome to the second tier preview show brought to you by SBK. I'm Ryan Dilks and I'm joined by the Dana White to my Ben White. It's Justin Peach.
Good day to you, Ryan.
Justin, in reference to that intro, it's alluding to the clip which has been doing the rounds of UFC CEO Dana White slagging off football. Have you seen this?
I don't think I have, actually. Please explain it to me, because this is weird.
I'm surprised that you haven't seen it, but I hate to admit that it has really rubbed me up the wrong way. So what he has essentially said is, and I'm paraphrasing here, football is the easiest sport in the world. 3-year-olds can play it. It's that easy, and the goals are so big that it's ridiculous that the scores are so low in most games. So if they had more talent, they would score more goals. It was essentially along those lines, but it's your typical ignorance to the great sports that we all know and love.
Yeah, it's proper dickhead comment. I mean, any 3-year-old can play a sport if they play it from a young age, right? They're not going to be very good at it, but a 3-year-old can get involved in MMA if that was a thing. I mean, there's no MMA for 3-year-olds or UFC or whatever. But
I hate to say, I would love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite problematic, but I mean, football's more inclusive in that sense because it's a non-violent sport. You're not kicking each other in the head. Actually, mind you, I did have the anecdote of me going to see my niece's game the other week, and they do in fact kick 10 hours of shit out of each other.
You did. So
it is as close to MMA as you can get. That isn't MMA, I guess. But yeah, it's a proper ignorant comment. And pretty. It's coming from the outside in, isn't it? Someone who's never kicked a ball thinking they can kick a ball when they try and kick a ball and they look like the biggest tit in the world.
Well, the comparison he made was that ice hockey, for example, is such a difficult sport, and I think that is fair because I can't even fathom having to play hockey while also trying to focus on ice skating. Yeah. However, my big sticking point with this is football is the most popular sport on the planet, and so to be very good at it, you have to be, to play it professionally, you have to be exceptionally good at it, don't you? And that's why I think Dana White was perhaps a bit ignorant to the situation.
Dare I say it's I mean, the odds and the probabilities will back me up here, but it'd be easy to become a full-time UFC fighter and a full-time ice hockey player than it would be to become a full-time professional footballer because of the statistics of I can't back it up.
Maybe not full time, but like a top flight Premier League footballer.
Yeah, but you're getting paid the big money, aren't you? You get someone who's getting paid the big money. The odds of that happening as a footballer are a lot slimmer than they are as probably a UFC fighter or an NHL ice hockey player. It's quite a controversial thing to say, and I'm backing it up with no stats other than knowing that 1 in 10 footballers become a professional footballer, which is incredible, really, as a stat.
It's slimmer than that, isn't it? I don't know if that's. I don't know the statistics behind it. Justin, I'm just not going to say that to a UFC fighter that the sport that he's in is.
Oi, cauliflower is. Come here.
It's a lot easier to be one of them than it is a professional footballer. Anyway, we'll leave that there. Welcome to the number one championship podcast, the second tier. Thank you for joining us wherever you are, and this is our preview show, sponsored by SBK, and this is where we look ahead to the weekend in the Championship. And the issue is, this weekend there aren't many games in the Championship. We have 3 contests for us to mull over in this episode, so we're going to go through each of them, including our game of the weekend, which is a huge game between QPR and Huddersfield. More on that very shortly. But we're going to go through each game, make our predictions based off that, and then finish off the show with Scott Height or Ryan Lowe right at the end of things. So as I say, let's begin things with our game of the weekend. And it is genuinely huge, isn't it? In fact, right now, you'd struggle to pick many games bigger than this, I think. It's a relegation 6-pointer between QPR and Huddersfield. And as we say, we have only got 3 games this weekend, but the gravity of this one counts for at least 4, doesn't it? Because a genuine question, Justin, how many games could we pick right now which have more at stake than this? Sure, Ipswich v Southampton is an obvious one. You could possibly say Leeds against either of those two as well. But otherwise, that's it. It's the team just outside the relegation zone against the side nearest to getting out of it. It's massive.
What do you mean a Cardiff v Preston is a big game for mid-table obscurity? Come on. It is massive. It is massive. I won't downplay it. It's absolutely huge. QPR Huddersfield. You just got to look at the table. I think if QPR win, they can go above Huddersfield, and Huddersfield drop into the bottom three. It would be, an incredible feat for that to happen, because of how poor QPR were at one stage, and sort of how bumpy it's been for Huddersfield. But as far as games go this weekend, yes, there are only three, but it's certainly absolutely huge. And I think as well the amount of money that's been, well, not the amount of money that's been invested into Huddersfield, but the amount spending they've been doing this January already, just adds a little bit more pressure to it from a Huddersfield perspective. And Cifuentes, who seemingly doesn't have any money, he's having to scrape around to get his players playing. He's had an injury crisis, hopefully come out the other end of that. Again, it props their squad up as well, so it adds a lot more gravitas to this fixture.
If it needed any. It didn't need any more gravitas, did it? But that's how big this game is. But you are right, Justin. If QPR win, they would jump out of the bottom three. And they haven't been outside of the relegation zone since September. And they're in this position despite only winning 5 points from an available 24, which may say a lot about how much this bottom four have struggled this season, that QPR could potentially be out the bottom three this weekend if they get a win, despite their pretty poor form. But from a QPR perspective, being outside of the bottom three would be huge, wouldn't it? On the other hand, can they afford to lose? Because that would open up a 6-point gap. And considering QPR have only won 5 points from their last 8, as we say, that gives you an idea of how tough that gap would be to cross if they were to lose here, especially because Huddersfield have strengthened this window and probably will do even further before the window closes, right?
And I think to make matters worse as well, I do agree with you, to make matters worse as well, those 4 teams, as we said on numerous occasions this season, are by far the worst 4 teams in the division. You've got Birmingham, Stoke, Millwall, Blackburn, Swansea and even Plymouth all on sort of 32, 33 points. Not too far ahead of the bottom 3, but you don't expect them to drop off too much. You could maybe make an argument for Plymouth, but they impressed in their last game. Birmingham have appointed Tony Mowbray. They're going to hopefully improve. Stoke, Schumacher, hopefully going to improve. There's so many variables to the teams that are above them, so it's going to be hard to close that gap on the teams that are above 21st. So yes, getting a result in this game is absolutely massive, and you are right. QPR losing this game is just going to open up an even bigger gap between them and Huddersfield. And like you said, Huddersfield spending money, adding to their squad, it mounts the pressure on it. It is almost a must-win game for QPR because they've struggled to develop any form of consistency since Cifuentes came in. There was a bit of a splurge when he first arrived, and things have improved, but is it enough to win 3-4 games on the trot to really pull you away from that bottom 3? Maybe, maybe not. And again, that points gap that opens up, is it enough then to win 3 or 4 games on trot to get you out of it? It gets harder and harder. So yeah, big game for QPR.
Yeah, spot on. And whether it's must win or not, I'm not too sure. I think a draw wouldn't be a terrible result from a QPR perspective, or a Huddersfield perspective for that matter. But a win for either side is just absolutely massive, isn't it? Let's look at it from a Huddersfield perspective, because of course they haven't been in great form recently, or really in great form since Darren Moore took over, and the pressure is mounting on him. All I see on my Twitter, or X at the moment, is just Huddersfield fans constantly calling for Darren Moore to get sacked. And it begs the question, Justin, if Huddersfield were to lose here, could Darren Moore get sacked?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a big fan of Darren Moore as a person and as a manager, but you do have to look at it and go, 21 games is 3 wins enough? 10 draws in that time, mind you, but is 3 wins enough? They do have a bottom 3 squad for me. We've said this many times. We don't have to keep repeating ourselves, but just to reaffirm the point, they have a bottom 3 squad. So I think that for Darren Moore to have accrued as many points as he has done, I think he's delivered. He's been on par. He's not set the world alight. He's not a Neil Warnock, we know that. And he's not set the world alight, but I think it just lends to what football is, which is a very fickle game. I think he needs the opportunity to see what he can do with an improved forward line, because they don't score enough goals. Do they create enough chances? Probably not. I think that's the next avenue they need to recruit in is a little bit more creative, a bit more of a spark. You look at Joseph Hungbo's contribution last season from set pieces and just being able to strike a ball and win a game. There are improvements there, but 10 draws is it? It's a fine margin for Darren Moore at the moment. 10 draws is a lot to accumulate in 21 games. But when you get the time to turn it around, I think the pressure's going to be on him because Kevin Nagel, the owner's on him. He's on him, isn't he? And he's in he's in the country. He's been going to games. He's very aware of the situation, which will just add the pressure to Darren Moore.
You say, is he under pressure? He's undoubtedly under pressure. And I do agree with you, Justin. I do believe personally that Huddersfield fans have perhaps been a bit harsh on Darren Moore because the squad is so poor. And now that they have been strengthening in the transfer window, that's good to see. It would be a bit harsh on him, though, if he were to be sacked as soon as they've just started strengthening, if you see what I mean, because he should really get a fair chance with this squad, in my opinion anyway. But will he get that? Because Huddersfield fans are losing patience at a rapid rate. And as we saw with Kevin Nagel, the owner, not too long ago, saying this isn't good enough on Twitter, he is clearly seeing what the fans are seeing as well, who are so desperate for another manager to come in. So it all depends on how long he's willing to give Darren Moore. And, if they do lose this, then that'll be a huge blow. And Huddersfield may panic, might they?
Mm. Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? It can be a knee-jerk reaction from the owner if they lose this game, because it's such a big game. You don't want to be dragged into the bottom three. You want to keep that points gap between you and the sides down there, especially if you're spending money. Because like you've said several times, going down to League One will be a bad investment for Kevin Nagel. And I think it's a case of if he's going to continue to invest that money, maybe you might want to bring in a manager who he knows is going to get the best out of the squad. That being said, are there going to be that many managers who are going to want to fight? I think Neil Warnock would be licking his lips at the principle of the squad, not Huddersfield as a club, but maybe the concept it represents, i.e. a relegation battle, bit of money being spent in January, new players, etc. So that's really what you're going to attract, a bit more short-termism. So yeah, it's a weird situation Huddersfield find themselves in, and it's probably one of their own making because of a very lax and inactive summer transfer window.
Well, they are amending what they did in the summer, aren't they, by being a bit more active in this window. They have been boosted by the recent signings of striker Rhys Healey from Watford and defender Radinho Bauca from Groningen in Holland. Just quickly, what did you think of the Healey move, Justin? I don't think we've really spoke about it yet, but it was a bit surprising seeing Huddersfield fork out $2 million for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for a player who's not done a lot, has struggled with injuries, was arrived on a free transfer from Toulouse to Watford in the summer, maybe they overpaid for him, but you get into a point in January when you are desperate for a striker that you will pay maybe a little bit over the odds for him. But look, I think if he can get going, get fit, and get comfortable and confident in the team, I think he can score goals. But there are a lot of variables at the minute. I think working against Healey just presents a bit of a risky signing. Maybe a loan signing may have been better, but I think if you're going to invest your money, you want to invest in a permanent transfer. And Healey has got a good history of scoring goals, especially in France. So, as I say, if he gets confidence, gets fit, and gets a run in games, you never know.
Yeah, it does feel a bit odd for a club to spend that much money, particularly a club in Huddersfield's position, on a striker who Watford signed on a free in the summer and has, by and large, been warming the bench for Watford this season. So that does seem a bit odd, but I suppose you could look at it from a position of they're going out there to prove that they want to stay up and are willing to fork out to try and avoid relegation. But it does seem like a bit of a strange one, doesn't it? I don't know much about Bauca from Groningen. Be interesting to see what he's like. I think Huddersfield's defence is probably their strongest point, and if they feel like he can improve that, then that's certainly interesting. It's now time, Justin, for our second tier bet builder with SBK. And with SBK, you can curate your own bet builder from a range of markets for any championship game. It's easy, fast and secure on the SBK mobile app, and you'll find substantially better odds there than at any other bookmaker. So every Friday we're making our own bet builder with 4 selections all relating to our game of the week. So that's 2 for Justin and 2 for me. So Justin, what are your selections for our SBK bet builder?
We've bigged the game up, haven't we, for the weekend? We've thrown everything at it. So I'm expecting the game to be a draw, and I'm expecting under 0.5 goals at half time. So I'm expecting actually the game to be 0-0 in general. But if you look at the past results of Huddersfield, they've drawn 10 games in 21 under Darren Moore, as I've alluded to already, since September, since he came in. They do find winning games away from home very hard to come by, just 2 all season. And then you mix that with QPR's home record, which is the worst in the Championship, followed by the pressure of a 6-pointer. Do fancy a draw here, and then going to the 0.5 goals at half time. Both sides have scored just 21 goals this season each, which is a very low number. So they're goal shy. Maybe the extra firepower might fall in Huddersfield's favour, but I expect the first half especially to be a nervy half, and if there's going to be a goal, it's more than likely going to be in the second half. But as I say, bit of nerves, bit of stress, bit of angst, bit tactical, bit overcautious. No, at half time.
Well, this is where you and I have kind of butted heads a bit here, Justin, haven't we? Because I've gone for both teams to score, and the reason I've gone for that is, by and large, because Huddersfield do like both teams to score. They have seen both teams score in 10 of their last 12 games, and while I do agree with you, both teams are not the best going forwards. I think we will see both teams finding the back of the net in some shape or form. So. Still could very well come in, couldn't it? It could still be 0-0 at half time, then both teams find the back of the net in the second half. So not completely against the grain. And then the other selection I've gone for is Ben Jackson to be carded. The reason I've gone with this, he's the Huddersfield left wing back. The reason I've gone for this is because Paul Smith of QPR is one of the most fouled players per game in the whole of the division. And if he's fit, he did miss the last game because he pulled out of the warm-up through injury, then he should be causing all sorts of problems for Jackson of Huddersfield. So that's why I've gone for that. And a £10 bet with SBK on this bet builder returns £179.86. And new SBK users can take advantage of £30 in free bets when you place your first £10 bet. T's and C's apply, over 18s only, and please do gamble responsibly. That bet builder, once again, is full-time result to be a draw under 0.5 goals at half-time. Ben Jackson to be carded of Huddersfield, and both teams to score in that one. £10 returns £179.86. Just before we have a quick break, Justin, look ahead to the rest of the games in the Championship this weekend. According to multiple reports, Blackburn have rejected an £18.5 million offer from Crystal Palace for midfielder Adam Wharton. The Athletic says Rovers want more money and for him to stay on loan until the summer. What did you think of that, Justin?
I think it's inevitable that Adam Wharton's going to generate interest because he's a very gifted midfielder. He's got a lot of responsibility in that midfield, and I think he grew into last season and he's really taken it on this season in Don Thomason's side. That being said, I do think that's a good offer. Fair enough for Blackburn rejecting it, and I understand Blackburn's want for a little bit of more in their favour. Obviously, Wharton signed a new deal in December until 2028, and I think replacing him at this stage in the transfer window, just a few days left. It's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky and probably expensive as well. So that being said, probably Rovers in their right to do it. But they do have an uncanny habit of not selling players at their peak value. Ben Brereton Diaz ran down his contract. Joe Rothwell, Darren Lenihan both ran down their contracts. Adam Armstrong, he had a year left on his deal. So yeah, maybe don't wait out too long, Blackburn, because I do think you need this money to reinvest into your squad badly.
Yeah, Amari Bell's another one as well who left on a free. All those players you mentioned there, Justin, left on a free apart from Adam Armstrong. And Blackburn missed out on the opportunity to sell them when they had the chance. And I worry whether Blackburn are doing that again here. I get that he's a very talented player, and reports say that Palace are going to be putting in another bid, so they clearly think they can squeeze more money out of this. So I'm hoping that if they got something like 20 million or so, then they see sense and sell, because I think 18.5 million is a very generous price, and they've still turned it down. And as you say, Blackburn don't have a great record in selling players at their optimum time. I with someone like Wharton, all it takes is a bad injury. Of course, I don't want that to happen, and touch wood, that doesn't happen. But all it takes is a bad injury for that value to completely disappear. And I also don't particularly understand them demanding that they get him back on loan, because 20 million, I think, is a cracking price in the first place. Surely you just take the money and run with that. And I get they want to get someone back in the team who's as talented as him. But at the same time, Blackburn probably won't go down this season. They're definitely not going to get in the top 6. So is it the end of the world if they don't get him back? I don't think it particularly is. So what I would say if I was an advisor to Blackburn in a strange turn of events is that 20 million, rip Palace's hand off for that, I think.
I've just got pictures of Noel Edmonds just lifting up the box, deal or no deal. You just take it, don't you? You don't faff around. Don't open any more boxes. Take the 18 million, guys. Noel Edmonds is telling you to take it. Well, I don't think he can. He could tell you to take it, but anyway, besides the point, just take the point. A lot of young listeners will have no idea what I'm talking about, but the older ones will.
Surely we don't have any listeners who aren't old enough to know what deal or no deal is.
I mean, when did it come off air?
I mean, it must have come off air about 10 years ago, but still, they must have some recollection of what deal or no deal is.
Yeah, they're not. The only thing is, there aren't many memeable moments in Deal or No Deal, are they? There are a couple of situations that might be interesting, but it's not exactly memeable content. So, internet culture won't be remembered fondly.
That may be a sad indictment of how you view the modern generation, but we'll leave that there. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll look ahead to the other 2 games in the Championship this weekend. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Justin and I are just reflecting on the incredible revelation that we didn't realise. We got notified by producer Finn that Deal or No Deal has been reprised on telly and is being presented by Stephen Mulhern, which I just did not know at all, and says a lot about my current viewing habits of TV.
And also featured Michael Owen at some point, which if you're going to go by his competitiveness of just throwing things in a bin, apple cores in a bin, then my God, that is going to be a good episode that we need to dig out. And there's 100%, contradicting myself here, there's going to be memeable content in that episode of Michael Owen on Deal or No Deal.
Well, surely when they each opened the box, he would just throw in an apple core each time they opened one of the boxes.
It's probably why he was invited on.
Yeah,
he wasn't actually on. Like, he wasn't involved in the show. He was just throwing apple cores in the boxes and pissing off his mum.
Maybe, or the banker in this case. Do you like Stephen Mulhern?
I can't stand him.
I think he's all right. I think you're very harsh.
Yeah,
anyway,
about you, I think.
Now, usually what we do in this episode is make our bankers and outsider predictions for the weekend. But since there's only 3 games, we're not going to do that this week, Justin. Instead, we're just going to each make a prediction on the other 2 games of the weekend and make that into our second tier featured multiple with SBK. So, Justin, you're predicting the outcome of Millwall v Preston. I'm predicting Sunderland v Stoke. Now, importantly, this won't count towards our prediction scores for the season. I didn't want any accusations of one game being harder to predict than the other, because whichever way I decided to do this, Justin would moan. So we're avoiding that. But by the way, the scores in that are now 33-21. Justin managed to pull a point back after his banker came in last weekend, while I had a scoreless week. So that will be returning again next week. But let's look ahead to this weekend then, Justin. And on Saturday, we have the Alex Neil derby between Sunderland and Stoke. And Justin, we were just talking earlier about Darren Moore's job potentially being at risk, depending on the weekend scoreline. That surely must be the case if Mick Beale were to lose here as well, mustn't it?
Yeah, I think the circumstances are very different with Mick Beale, because as opposed to some managers like Darren Moore who have maybe sections of vocal supporters that show discontent, the feeling from Sunderland fans is unanimous that Mick Beale is not the man for them. It is unanimous. So I think, a defeat will definitely pile the pressure on him. and will certainly maybe push the board to making a difficult decision. But look, if they lose, season's fizzling out quickly because the form, the quality of football has dropped off so significantly since Tony Mowbray left. It is ridiculous. And I think what makes it worse is, and it's probably a good thing that Birmingham aren't playing this weekend, is the more Mowbray gets out of that Birmingham side, the more I'm thinking maybe it was a mistake getting rid of Mowbray at that stage. Maybe you should have kept him on and see where you went. Try and recruit a striker in January and see what happens, because my goodness, it is not good.
Well, I think I will disagree with you to an extent, Justin. I don't think performances have particularly dropped off a cliff at all. I just think the fans didn't believe in Mick Beale when he was appointed and haven't seen enough to convince them otherwise. And that's why I think Sunderland do have a decision to make, because it's only going to get more and more difficult for them to turn around this drop in form if the fans are not behind the team. I mean, just think about it. Imagine the boos if they lose against Stoke. It will be deafening. It was loud after they lost to Hull. If they lose here, then it will be earth-shattering. You'd see, by the way, that the power went out at Mick Beale's press conference before this game this weekend, which I feel like is a good metaphor for what potentially could be happening with his Sunderland career, Justin.
Also, an incredible irony that it's the power's gone out of the Academy of Light. There's no light there at the training ground. But yeah, it's a weird metaphor, isn't it? Maybe if it dimmed and flickered and we saw a picture of it like a bit of a horror film, then maybe someone can cut something together and really be creative with a video of it. But yeah, it's
got Charlie Methven appearing when the lights come back on,
like the Undertaker.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is as bad a metaphor as you can get for him, because yeah, everything's going out on Mick Beale at the moment.
Yeah, well, in response to criticism from the Sunderland fans, he said in that press conference when the lights were actually on, and this is sarcasm, by the way, "It's a huge crisis. We're sat where we are, 3 points outside the playoffs with a home game coming up." And then he went on to say, "I'm a little bit perplexed and bemused by the outside thing." And by outside thing, he, of course, means the Sunderland fans in this scenario. But look, it is Stoke who they are playing, and their unbeaten start under Steven Schumacher came to an end last weekend. How are you feeling about them, Justin, currently?
I think they're on a better trajectory than Sunderland are under Mick Beale. I can't remember if they were appointed at the same time, but they've had a similar amount of games, shall we say. And I think the horrible, ironic thing here is Steven Schumacher would be perfect for this Sunderland squad. Absolutely perfect for this Sunderland squad in terms of getting the attacking potential out of it, developing youngsters, not going out spending chunks of money on players, and just really getting a style of play that the supporters can get behind. And that being said, football at Stoke has improved. There's just a quality issue at the top end of the pitch, and I think that will come at some point. And let's say Stoke get an early goal here, I think that's going to give them confidence to go on and win this game, because the atmosphere is going to turn toxic as soon as that happens, if it happens.
Yeah, it won't take much for the Sunderland fans to get on the backs of the players, will it? So, this is my selection. I'm the one who's predicting for this game this week, and I'm going for a Sunderland win. The reason I've gone for that is because what sometimes tends to happen in football is all the pressure is on a manager to try and get out a result because the fans just aren't happy. And what sometimes happens is they get the win on the board, and that's kind of what I'm sensing here. But I also look at it like this. This Sunderland squad is extremely talented, and even though, is Mick Beale the right man? I don't think so. I still think when you put the two squads side by side, this Sunderland team is a lot better and a lot stronger, has a lot more depth, and is a lot more exciting than this Stoke team. So that's why I'm going to go for a Sunderland win here, Justin. Are you happy with that?
I think I am, actually. I can't find. Maybe I might edge towards the draw, but that's a bit boring. Mainly because I just think I think both sides will cancel each other out, because Sunderland aren't creating a hell of a lot, and Stoke have drawn quite a few games under Steven Schumacher. There's been an onus on making sure there's a bit more control in games, and therefore they're not giving too many chances away. But then again, that might play into Sunderland's hands. But if you're looking at match winners, and this is always a thing I'll say in tight games, this is always a thing I'll say with Sunderland as well under Mick Beale, is they've got Jack Clarke, who's got the ability to win a game on his own. He can shoot from distance, he can shoot outside the box, he can cut inside, he can do whatever he wants with the ball, which is quite a unique thing to do. And I don't think Stoke have too many of those. And I think it's a collective thing for Stoke, and they're coming up, but I think going against the grain of that collective, I think Jack Clarke can really, really punish the side, and I think might well do that here against Stoke.
Yeah, I was considering the draw myself. Stoke have drawn 5 of their last 8 league games, so it wouldn't be a surprise to see that happen at all. However, I kind of just following on from what you said and what I was saying a second ago, Sunderland have a lot more individual talent, particularly Jack Clarke, so that's why I'm edging towards a Sunderland win. And the other game from Saturday is the Troy Parrott derby. It's Millwall against Preston. As you could probably tell, I was struggling a bit to find anyone who's played for Millwall and Preston, and that was the best I could find. But it's 9 losses from 13 in all competitions for Preston, and just kind of the theme of this episode, Justin. Ryan Lowe, could he be in danger of losing his job with a loss here? I feel like that one is less likely than the other two, despite the poor form.
Yeah, he's safe. Ryan Lowe is safe, I think. It's one of those where Preston aren't going to... There's probably not an objective to win promotion this season, and they're certainly not going to get relegated. It's just a case of trying to perform as best as you can, as consistently as you can, which they haven't done at all this season, actually. I think that's the only thing that's going against him, and that's probably going to annoy supporters more than it will annoy a board. Because unless you are fighting relegation, how many managers get sacked in January, for example? Not many. Those decisions don't really get made in a transfer window. So I think for Lowe now, as I say, he's probably the safest of the 3. But that being said, he's got to stop aggravating fans with comments in the media. I think that's going to help his cause quite a lot. Justin? Oh, it's great for us because we've got stuff to talk about and we can laugh about it. But it's not great for supporters when your own manager's trying to stick the needle in a little bit and say that we're not underperforming, we're overperforming. Any nonsense that he's come out with in the past or anything that he's alluding to. So yeah, I think he's certainly safe, but he needs a result. He needs a result to get the pressure, lift the pressure, and get the fans off his back.
Yeah, he definitely does need a result. I feel like that Leeds win from what was a few weeks ago now, I feel like that has done a lot to alleviate the pressure, but how long will that last, I don't know. Preston fans have been calling for Lowe's head for a while, but the ownership seem keen to want to give him a chance to turn it around, and based on that, I'll be surprised if a loss away at Millwall was the straw which broke the camel's back, because it would be quite a strange game to look at and go, right, this is the game where we decided it needs to change. Yeah. So that's why I'd certainly be very surprised if Ryan Lowe were to lose his job here. But look, he desperately needs to turn things around, doesn't he? Because 9 losses from 13 is essentially relegation form, isn't it? I don't think there's any danger of Preston actually going down this season, but if it doesn't turn around, then not only will the fans have lost all hope with Ryan Lowe, but the hierarchy will be looking at it thinking, yeah, we do need to make a change. It's about time that we do. From a Millwall perspective, we could see Michael Obafemi and Japhet Tanganga make their first starts for the Lions. And I tell you what, Justin, I was having a look at that Millwall team, and it's pretty good, actually. Of course, striker has been a big issue for them pretty much all season, but if you put Obafemi up top and then you've got Zian Fleming just behind him, and then Brooke Norton-Cuffy, Joe Bryan at wing back, and then a back 3 with the likes of Jake Cooper, Sean Hutchinson or Wes Harding perhaps, and then adding Japhet Tanganga in that back 3 as well, that's a pretty decent team.
Yeah. On paper, it's a lovely squad. It's just about getting that balance and blend right, and getting players confident, and also trying to alleviate some of your weaknesses. Because I think I alluded to it when Tanganga came in, when the signing was announced, that it's an aging back 4. I know Jake Cooper's 28, but he's 6'10". He's the biggest man in the world. He's not going to be quick, is he? So getting a bit of athleticism back into that back line is going to be great, because if Joe Edwards is going to want to push those wing backs forward in Norton Cuffy and Joe Bryan, or whoever's playing at right wing back and left wing back, you need a steady, quick defence who can handle any sort of counter attack. So that's going to play a big role in having Tanganga in that back line and bringing the average age down quite considerably. Mostly, and I think as well we're sort of seeing that in performances because we're seeing more chances get created and more goals scored. There's still a lot of work to do, a lot of consistency that needs to happen. But I think my initial sort of worries of Joe Edwards and this Millwall side and him as a coach have sort of been alleviated by recent results, especially over Christmas and into the new year, because they have been steady, they have been getting better. Although they've lost back-to-back games and a really poor game against QPR last weekend, I do think there will be a reaction. I think the signings as well of Tanganga and Obafemi are really going to freshen things up if they're in the squad and in the starting 11.
So what's your selection then, Justin, for this game?
I'm going for a Millwall win. Now, I know their home record isn't the best, but I just think Preston are so inconsistent. They blow hot and cold so often that it's just really hard to pin them down. And so I think that Millwall are looking a lot better and a lot more consistent than Ryan Lowe are under Preston. I think as well there's a lot more quality, I think, in that Millwall side, and adding Michael Obafemi and Tanganga into it is going to be a big thing. And we've not seen the best of certain individuals. George Honeyman's not been great. Alan Campbell's not been fantastic. Tom Bradshaw looks a shadow of himself last season, or the shadow of himself of when he's on his goal scoring runs from last season. He's not had that run of form yet. Kevin Nisbet's not really set the world light either. There's been so many players that have underperformed this season for Millwall. It's got to click at some point. Whether it happens against Preston, I don't know, but the early stages under Joe Edwards, or the stages now under Joe Edwards, are looking a lot better than they were 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, I agree with you, Justin. I struggle to put a large amount of confidence in Millwall just because of how they've done this season, but as we were just alluding to, the Millwall squad's looking pretty tidy. Home advantage is a big thing. Preston are really badly out of form, so that's why I will agree with you on a Millwall win, I think. So there are mine and Justin's predictions for this weekend, and every week we combine these selections with a bet on the full-time result of our game of the weekend to create our very own second tier featured multiple with SBK. So this week we're going for Millwall to win, Sunderland to win, and QPR v Huddersfield to be a draw. And a £10 bet on that returns £130 with SBK. That's Millwall to win, Sunderland to win, and QPR v Huddersfield to be a draw. £10 bet on that returns £130 with SBK. And you can create your own multiple with 3 or more bets on the full-time result of any game from across the Championship. T's and C's apply, over 18s only, and please do gamble responsibly. And baby, you know, it's now time for this.
Scott High or Ryan Lowe?
Your little best is fucking shit, mate.
Yes, it's time for Scott High or Ryan Low, baby, and this is the game where we have to rank 4 things from highest to lowest. It's as simple as that, and there's 3 questions. This week, Justin is providing the questions to me, so what have you got for me, Justin Peach, you bastard?
I've got some good ones. The first one, it's a doozy. It's a doozy. Yeah, go on in. I want you to rank the longest serving players in the Championship at their respective clubs. Ooh. So a player who's been at the club for the longest. Would you like the players? Are you happy with that? Are you content with that?
I am content with that. Please round off the players with me.
Lovely. You've got Barry Bannon, Jonathan Hogg, Jamie Vardy, and Jay Fulton.
Okay.
Would you like
Jay
the clubs as well?
Fulton. Jay Fulton's one of those who wasn't really on my radar for many years and then just suddenly started playing relatively regularly for Swansea. So I don't really know when he signed for Swansea, but I know Vardy was definitely before Bannon. I can say that for sure, because Bannon actually joined slightly later than I always thought he did. How long was Hogg at Huddersfield for? Well, he was at Watford, wasn't he, when that Deeney goal was scored? And I think he joined shortly after that. Yeah, he definitely was.
Was
it? Hogg Deeney, doesn't it? So I'll put Vardy top as the longest serving. Jay Fulton. He's older than you think as well.
Could be.
I'm going to put him bottom just because I don't really know, to be honest. And then with regards to the others, I will go Hogg second, Bannon third.
You're close. You've just got Bannon and Fulton the wrong way round.
I didn't know with Fulton. I just did not know.
Yeah, so Jamie Vardy's top. He's been at Leicester for 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Hogg's been at Huddersfield for 10 years. Jay Fulton has been at Swansea for 9 years.
Yeah, I knew it was a while, but I just could not picture it.
He's coming up to a testimonial year.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Quite remarkable, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and Barry Bannon's been at Sheffield Wednesday for 8 years.
Yeah, not as long as you think.
No, it's not. It's not. I thought you might sort of get him mixed up or get him muddled in with the Hogg.
No, because I vividly remember being surprised about how Bannon's not been in there as long as you might actually believe. But anyway, what's the next one, Justin?
The next one is, I want you to rank who has used the most players in the Championship this season.
Oh, God. Okay.
So it's quite simple. Who's used the most players? Which team has used the most players in the Championship? So the teams you've got are Plymouth, Cardiff, Watford and Stoke.
Okay. Fine. You say Watford as well?
I did say Watford. I said Cardiff. I said Plymouth, and I said Stoke as well.
I feel like you've thrown Watford in there because Watford are perennially a side who use a lot of players, but I don't think they do that as much nowadays. But they certainly don't do it as much as they did 10 years ago anyway.
Maybe not.
I think Stoke might be quite high in there because they signed quite a few players in the summer, didn't they? So I will go Stoke, Cardiff, Plymouth, Watford.
So you've got me Stoke, Cardiff, Plymouth and Watford.
I'm saying that with very little confidence.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Well, you're wrong.
Okay.
We'll put it out there. We'll damage your confidence even more. You've just got Plymouth and Cardiff the wrong way around, actually. Stoke are top.
Wasn't that wrong?
Yeah, so Stoke are top with 33. They've used the most players in the Championship this season.
That doesn't.
Plymouth are next in this list with 29. Quite a few, actually. Don't know who, but they've used 29 players. Cardiff have only used 25. They're towards the bottom of the list in the Championship, which staggers me a little bit.
The reason I went high with them is because when people think of the players used, they often forget about academy players.
Yes.
And I feel like Cardiff have used quite a few academy players, so I thought they might be higher than that.
But they haven't. And Watford have used just 23, which is the lowest in the Championship, which is not a surprise because Big Val has said many times this season he wants a small squad.
Well, there you go. Finally, Justin, can I have the final Scott High or Ryan Lowe? See if I'd have some luck with this one.
You might do. I want you to rank the individuals who have held the most championships in the WWE.
Oh, you bastard.
So this includes tag team championships, intercontinental championships, and all the variations of the main championship belts. So it's a cumulative of all of those.
Do you know what it is this weekend, Justin?
It's the Royal Rumble.
It is. And do you know who's staying up for it?
It's going to be you.
Yeah. I haven't stayed up and watched a WWE event in a long time, but I thought, you know what, why not do it this weekend? So
absolutely,
that's what I'm doing this weekend. Anyway, hit me with this, please.
You've got The Rock, Triple H, Edge, and Jeff Hardy.
Fine. I will instantly put The Rock bottom because
The Rock bottom.
Hey, I didn't think of that. I really wish I did. But obviously he's been in Hollywood for yonks now, hasn't he? So I'd be surprised if he's not bottom. Triple H, Jeff Hardy, Edge. I'll put Edge top because Edge has been around for a long time, won the tag belts, intercontinental belts, the main championships a few times. Triple H, see, he always had the big belts, but he often held them for a while.
Yeah.
So I think I'll put him third, and then I'll put Jeff Hardy second. And I feel like I might have nailed that.
You've got Jeff Hardy and Triple H the wrong way around.
You fucker! No!
So you're right in saying Edge is top with 31. He's held everything pretty much. Famous tag team partnership with Christian, wasn't it? Triple H, you are right. Sorry, you were wrong. He was second with 24. Then it was Jeff Hardy with 19. Then it was The Rock with 17.
The thing is, Triple H has been around for a long time. We're talking a good 20 years, whereas Jeff Hardy's been in and out of the WWE. I'm so annoyed at that. That's really
Yeah.
wound me up.
That's the most I've seen you concentrate and really break things down on this podcast in 5 years.
I'm fuming now. I'm going to have a good sit down before the Royal Rumble this weekend. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's been Scott High, Ryan Lowe. That's been the Second Tier Podcast, and this has been our show, our preview show, sponsored by SBK. And we'll be back again on Sunday to round up all 3 games in the Championship this weekend. Of course, I imagine there'll probably be some transfer bits and pieces as well, which happen over the coming days as well. So we'll talk about that and any other news which happens in the Championship over this coming weekend. So we look forward to seeing you then. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.